Hello, hi there. Today we are lucky to have with us Mr. Sanath Kumar, the Executive Director at Deloitte. Thank you for doing this, sir.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure to be here.
So my first question to you, what is data to you in your words?
So I would call data as a building block. I would call data as a fuel. Whatever we do in today's world, we generate data. As we are speaking currently, we are generating a lot of data. The flip side of what data brings in at free is how to manage data. So when we speak, when we see, when we walk, when we talk, we generate data everywhere.
Sure.
Being it phone, being watching Facebook, going into LinkedIn, every click we drop a data. But the challenge is how organization make it more effective becomes more important.
Sure.
Couple of things which in my experience is identifying the right use cases to take this data, the fuel converting into money is very important. What in my words I call it as click into a clink. So it's very important how having an organization wearing a hat of bringing the use case, outcomes and taking it to the next level of connecting the data together to bring in more value to the business and also not within the organization, also to the external world.
Sure.
That becomes very critical in today's data as fuel.
Yeah.
The second most important thing, we all as an organization, being it a telecom company, being it a life sciences company, being it a healthcare, the data is commodity where a lot of business challenges, not only business challenges, it's also started solving the problems which humans have today, being it education, being it curing some of the cancer patients with the right AI/ML model which has been built. We are seeing that. That means data becomes building block for anything we do, anything we speak going forward. So we have to be carefully looking data, how we enable that for the betterment of the human.
Lovely. And speaking of all that data does mean to you, which is of course a lot and a lot more, I'm sure. It brings me to my next question. It's a fast moving world. It's a constantly evolving and changing world. So in your eyes, how do organizations embark on a journey to be a data driven enterprise?
Very wonderful question. See, 85% of the CTOs, CIOs or the CEOs talk today, we want to be data driven enterprise.
Right.
So it's everyone's dream, it's everyone's talk today.
Yeah,
right?
It's everyone's goal for sure.
Everyone's goal for sure. And if you look at top five agendas, one of the goals will be that.
Definitely.
What it makes more important is starting from breaking the silos. Today, in last 20 years, people have generated so much of data and so much of ownership for that particular systems. Everybody feels this particular system is mine, but nobody tells that this data is mine, right? There is a lot of silos within the organization. The top-down approach, which every leader should look at, how do I start breaking these silos, bring the data together. So the starting point would be, how do I restructure my entire data as an organization is the first starting point. The journey starts from bringing people together, bringing the business together, bringing the culture together.
Definitely.
For an example, today, if CEO or CIO wants to put customer experience on the top, so earlier it was just the CRM responsibility or it was just the sales responsibility. Today, for somebody to have better experience on the customer, it is not only sales, it has services, how much of the dissatisfaction the customer is having, how much of the revenue he is generating, that the finance comes into the picture, how much of the supply chain, can I fulfill the customer with the supply chain mindset which I have. That means there is more than 5 different organizations within an enterprise is coming together to solve customer problem.
Yeah.
That means no more data can be looked at silos. Data has to be looked at together. Now when we start looking data together, now we also get into the next journey of how do I bring in the internal data exchange and external data exchange. To have a mindset of sharing the data with others, not only within the organization and also can I go outside the organization and build it. For an example, many organizations today are sharing data for betterment of the health. Assume that I have a smartwatch, I generate data when I walk. So doctors today, they are using to see that what is the blood pressure rate, if they are walking for 15 minutes at the age of 46, what would be their heart rate? How do I help to improve the betterment
It's
of
become an indicator. Yeah.
indicator, right? So use data for the betterment of the health.
Definitely.
So use data for betterment of some sports person,
Definitely.
right? I mean, somebody is training himself for a athlete, so he knows that, okay, at what heart rate I can finish my race. So that means data exchange is becoming more important, because not one organization own data. Now multiple organizations come together in an exchange model to make better results out of it.
Sure.
There is a lot more value from the organization journey, thinking from siloed within the organization to collaborate and monetize data across the organization. So it's a journey which we can look at a leader who can think just beyond his organization to work with multiple organizations.
Right.
Those are the kind of leaders we are looking for to drive the data-driven enterprise.
Definitely, and I think that's been the sort of conversation and larger theme today at DataCon.
Absolutely.
And that brings me to my last question. I know this is going to sound rather open-ended, but I do feel, you'd be able to shed the right light on it for the viewers today. So essentially what I wanted to ask you was, how do you think companies should go about viewing data, assessing data to maximize outputs for their own businesses?
Absolutely. It's a very good question. Today, as the data brings in, so everything today starts data as a input which I bring in
Sure.
to my system, and then they decide what to do with this data, right? So rather, people should start thinking that I have set of data, and how do I convert this data into a business use case value? So again, for an example, if I have to give a supply chain, there is a lot of challenges today in the supply chain where they look at the entire data as, how do I improve the price point?
Right.
Because the supply chain in today is not very reliable because of various reasons today in the market, what we have seen in recent past.
Yeah, it's an unreliable.
In unreliable market. So how do I improve the pricing model for customer to take decisions that, okay, what is the right price point for me to buy? What is my right price point to sell? So this is how any business can utilize, convert those data into real use cases to solve business problems.
Sure.
Right? That is one example. The second example we can certainly talk about when we were working for a shipping organization. Now, more the time the ship or a vessel which is on the sea, they make more money. If it is on the yard, they make less money.
Yeah.
Right? So the business case came in like, how can you help us to solve the problem of moving the ship faster out of those yards? So we connected with those cranes, the productivity of all the cranes. How do I improve the faster turnaround of the particular crane to move the vessels faster? That means you are converting data into a use case into money, and solving the business problem.
Sure.
So the organization should start looking every data what they have, how can I convert into a real world use case which I can convert into a business case.
Understood.
This is where we all can look at. I mean, all of these should start with bringing education on data for everybody who creates
Awareness,
data
definitely.
and learn data, right? I mean, that's very, very important. The data awareness, the data literacy, what we call, it has to be embarked as the starting point of the journey, so that everybody can convert their data into an information into a value.
Definitely. Very well put. Here's to educating people about data
Absolutely.
awareness, data literacy is definitely the need of the hour. Thank you again. This was an exclusive
Thanks
conversation only at ET Insights with the Executive Director at Deloitte, Mr. Sanath Kumar. Thank you, sir, for doing
Thank
this.
you, Pallavi.
It's been an honor
Thanks a lot
speaking
for
to you.
hosting me. Thank you.
Thank you.